Okay, it's that time. Welcome in, guys. It's Monday, 1 o'clock, so it's time for another Monday message. We have a really great call lined up today. I'm excited for the guest speakers. We have one Adam Burge and Cath Truelove here. Going to talk to you guys about estate planning. Going to be walking you through the process of how to do that. And why I love that is because one, it's a new frontier that we're getting into as a company, and it is exploding businesses, right? All you guys got to do is go and look at the leaderboards and see how it's impacting and exploding the businesses. And Adam and Cath have both been on the front lines of that. I mean, Cath is, I think, number two last time I checked in enrollments. Correct me on that later, Cath, if that's wrong. And I remember when we hired Cath, when Cath first came to us 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years. Cath started out the same way that everyone does, right? Final expense. And just like everybody else, right? She's trying to learn and figure out how this is supposed to work, what I'm supposed to do, trying to figure out how to scale my business. And eventually, I think it was A View from the Edge last year when they really rolled out the estate planning training and they were talking about it on a large scale. And I remember talking to Cath and Mimi, her upline, after that. And Cath was like, yes, this is what I want to do, right? And I think Cath, I love you. I think you had written like four final expense policies like at that point, but you were just so incredible to see the growth, with you and Mimi. I know you guys have been working closely together to where you are now. So I just love that you're here speaking on panels, right? At the main events. It's just incredible. So excited about that. And if you guys have been around for a little bit, you know Adam Burge, and he's last time I checked, I think he was top 10, I believe, in production in the entire company, whole thing. He might be higher by the time the numbers come out this week. And I'm pretty sure he's number one in our entire group. So these are people who are really getting it done, guys, and they're taking the time to pour into your business. And why it's so important is because it can really help just push that profitability in your business. So hang tight for that. I'm excited to have both of them on with us. But first, let's look at some numbers from last week and let's see where we are with that. Okay, so producers over 1,000 submit for last week. Again, we know there's more of you that are still producing, but get with us. We'll help you get over that 1,000 mark. So everyone over 1,000 last week: Vanessa, Irma, Jeanette, Melissa, Henry, Carl, David, Eli, Ricky, and starting at 2,000 last week: Andre, Jude, David, Elizabeth, Sabrina, Mike Guerra, Chrissy. And then kicking it up to 3,000, we got Mallory, David, Terry, Janet. 4,000, we got the man himself, Adam Burge, Sydney, Aaron, and the boss, Stephen, kicking us off at 6,000 submit last week. All right, so top five weekly submitted last week. We got Jeremy Edwards, $6,178 with 9 applications. We got Marissa with $6,377.16. Elizabeth M, $7,199.88. We got Cath. You'll be hearing from her soon. $7,437.36. And then number one weekly submit for last week was Haley with $8,330.76 for application. So if you guys are new to the call, like this is weekly submits. That's 8,000 for last week, right? Not last month. So really proud of everybody. Great numbers. Okay, my favorite slide, y'all know that, top five weekly paychecks. So this is what everyone got paid last week, deposited into their bank accounts. Starting at number five, Haley, $3,952.18. Devon and Nikki, $3,984.95. Nick Greco, $6,062.09. David, $8,179.67. And the top paycheck for last week, again, clarity, last week, Mike Guerra, $9,455.07. Great job, guys. Must feel good seeing 9 grand coming to your bank account in 1 week. All right, what's next? Okay, Freedom Leaderboard. Last week we called that because that's how you get free. You scale your business, you grow, you teach other people how to do what you do. So last week completed fast tracks. Brian had one and we have one direct here at the base shop. Completed contracts last week. That means agents who are ready to go and sell right now. We got Brandy here at the office, Aaron Wilson and Brian went a three-way tie, all with one direct contract. And last week, as far as people enrolled in class, that means they're studying to take their test to get their license. We have 4. So again, we don't really have any way to track that. So if you guys are enrolling people and want us to post those numbers, please send those over to us, drop it in a Discord somewhere so we can highlight that for you. Okay, Steven's travel schedule. He is in Salt Lake today. He goes there pretty often, all these places. Of course, we got the big boot camp-esque training in Anaheim, well, Santa Ana, in California at the end of this month. Steven's still going full tilt all this month, guys, and I think June's going to be a big month too. So the best thing we can do is just get people out there. Let Steven do what he does best, which is fire up your people and send them back to you, either ready to produce more or ready to get signed up. So you don't have to have all the answers to the questions. You can just interview people, recruit strategically in these areas that you know Stephen goes to every week, and just send them there, right? Stephen will do his job, send it back to you, and we can scale your business. So just keep in mind those dates, and we'll update that accordingly. Okay, so first policies for last month in April, right? If I'm not mistaken on that. We got Freddie out in Utah. He should be there seeing Steven today. We've got Brian Allendorf, very excited about him. He's building a team as we speak. Got a lot of guys coming on board. Noah, I've been working closely with Noah, direct here at the base shop. Very proud of him. Much more to come. Valencia, I love that you're getting to it coming out of the event. And if you've been on the Discord, we've been strategizing, talking about things with Rogers and Kim. I'm glad to see it's starting to pay off, first of many. And then, of course, we got Don Houston as well. So, guys, Stephen told me a long time ago, if you can do it once, you can do it a million times. Right? There's no magic in it. It's just doing the work. So congratulations on everyone submitting their first policy for last week. So now it's exciting time because now it's time to bring up the real reason why you guys are here, right? We're going to learn today. So get your notes out, get ready to take them down and refer back to them. So Adam's going to spend some time walking you guys through the enrollment process. And Adam, whenever you're ready, I'll let you take over and floor is yours.
Where's my my co-chair? Cath Shaw Truelove. You there, Cath?
There we go.
Nice. Can't do this without you.
Hi there, everybody.
Hey, Cath, I was looking at your message that you typed in here in the chat. You've been with us about 13 months with TDG Financial, but less than a year on estate planning. When did you first hear about estate planning? Do you remember when that was?
Okay, I started with the Davies Group, I think end of February last year, and then I heard about it in April and went to a session in Burlington in April, and then I did my first seminar in May, mid-May last year. So I'm coming up to almost a year doing estate planning.
What I think is amazing about that, and Omar mentioned this earlier, but you had very little experience with just like life insurance in general, right? Zero experience. But yet you made a success of it and you've been really leading the charge. Were you top 6, I think you were saying, in estate plans with the Alliance?
It depends on the month. Sometimes I'm at number 2, sometimes I'm at number 4. It just depends on, but generally I'm in the top 6. But the number that I really pay attention to for me is when I meet with people versus when they start estates. And so I try to stay in between an 80 and 100% close rate. And generally I'm around 90% close rate because I meet with about 15 to 17 families a month and do between 10 and 13 estates.
What are some of the recent wins you've gotten from that? Can you tell us some numbers like policies or annuities submitted, commissions paid, those kinds of things?
I'm working closely with my team lead, Mimi Romero, and it's funny. Each month I sit down and I try to learn a new thing. Like you were saying, Adam, I'm relatively new at this entire industry, right? And so long-term care was round about January. I sat down and it's a 4-hour course. And so I did the 4-hour continuing ed course on that. And Mimi and I were like, okay, let's start with long-term care policies. And with people doing retirement planning in and around estate planning, long-term care is a logical conversation. I just wrote my first long-term care policy. They're in the midst of meeting with their doctors and getting all of that policy related checklist with Mutual of Omaha done. But prior to that, one that I'm really proud of, Adam, and you might have heard this at our last convention, so pardon me for repeating myself. For those of you who didn't go to the last convention, I was on a panel, I guess, and I talked about a gal. I'm going to change her name. Let's call her Penny. Penny, we looked at her burn rate of what she was spending every year off of her 401k, and she was going to end up spending her entire amount by age 74. She's one of those women that was hiking, really active. She's in her mid 60s. She'd saved up her entire career and put X amount in her 401k. We asked her gently if she had longevity in her family, and she's like, she's really proud, and as she should be. And she said, I have two aunts over 95. So we did some quick math and we're like, okay, Penny, that's about 2 decades without without some sort of supplement to Social Security. Had you planned on that? And she says, no, I hadn't planned on that. And so we put her into a lifetime income product through Nationwide. And I'm so proud of that, because she's not going to have 20 years without money to spend. It's not a ton of money, but she's going to have something besides Social Security for her entire life, because she's probably going to live like her aunts till 95 or longer. But because this is a lifetime product, she gets that. Let's say she lives till 103, she'll get that sum every year till she's 103.
Right.
And I go to bed at night with stories like that, and I'm like, I'm grateful for what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good example, Cath. That's a really good example. I appreciate you sharing that experience. This goes to show, guys, that what we do, we want to see the numbers, obviously, because we want to make a living, or even better than that, right? We want to see the numbers, but we're also here helping people.
Yeah.
This often I find a good cross section of the people we help are individuals who often do not have a financial advisor and have very little or no one at all to give them advice, and they're just doing the best they can with consumer facing products and trying to figure it out for themselves. And we can come in and help them, and it is very, very rewarding, and we get a nice paycheck on top of that. Just a few weeks ago, I got 52 grand in one day. Those are good days. It's great to get those kinds of days, isn't it? So,
I tell people I'm in the land of $25,000 annuities here in Chattanooga. Not everybody is putting huge sums of money, $250,000, $500,000, whatever. There are a lot of people that 25 grand is their lifetime savings, right? And so if we look at that and we talk about how to use those funds to the best of their advantage, they are so grateful. And so sometimes a commission on that is different. It's more like $800 or $900, but still that's, it's better than $0, right?
Right.
So getting paid is getting paid.
Yeah.
And like Stephen says, there's lots of different things that add up to the end result. And so those 25K ones, sometimes I'm proud of those just as much. And to be honest with you, they're just as much work as the 300K ones. It's the same number of steps. And so, but I'm grateful because people half the time, Adam, didn't know this stuff was out there. And my second degree is in education. And so when people think I'm a lawyer, I'm like, I hold my hands up and I'm like, listen, I'm not a lawyer, I'm an educator. And they're like, oh, okay, educate us. So I do.
Well, let's educate. Let's do it because, folks, there are ways out there to hold these seminars where you get a chance to really educate in a classroom-like setting. And we also have opportunities to educate one-on-one. But sometimes I think what happens is when it comes to estate planning, a lot of people are thinking about the seminar size events, and people don't often have the money to start those kinds of campaigns yet. They want to work up to that point. Maybe they've never written an annuity before, or they're trying to master final expense and term and the like. Well, there are still opportunities to help people implement an estate plan. An estate plan is vital. Cath, how many times do you see people who think they have a complete estate plan and what they have is a will? And people don't realize.
The be prepared, folks, because the question I'm asked is, what's your plan? And so be prepared to be transparent. I tell people exactly what product I'm in, how much money I put in it, and what the outcome is. I also tell them, with my husband's permission, how much money he put into various tools that we use. And literally 15 minutes ago, I finished a meeting where he's like, well, what's your plan? And so there's a book by Andy Albright, the eight, what is it called? Eight
Steps
something.
to success. Yeah.
8 steps to success. I know the number 8. I'm kind of a number person. So that 8 book, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
One of the steps is personal use. And
Right.
so I have personal use. My best friend has one of the tools that we use. So I use her as an example, and my husband has the tools that we use. So the personal use is in my sphere of influence, and I can use all of those examples with their permission.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that a will guarantees probate.
Yeah, you can say that again.
Yeah. And they don't realize how expensive probate is. For every $1 million in estate that goes to probate, they're going to pay on average $28,000 in probate costs. That's $28,000 that could have gone to family and friends, children, grandchildren, whoever it is you wanted to leave your money to. That's money that could have gone to those individuals, but instead it's going to attorneys and probate costs and all those things. People don't realize they can't go to probate court without an attorney. What does an attorney cost? $350 an hour?
A lot. Yeah. And in the case of my mom, which is the example I use in my seminar sometimes, she didn't have a properly funded estate trust. And so there's 2 things that end up in probate. One is a will or lack of a will, and 2 is a trust that's not properly funded. And so if you have one of those 2 avenues, you're going to end up in probate.
Yeah. And it's not a requirement, but people think it is because, again, they don't know any better. No one's ever told them these things. And so they use the products that are front facing, that are consumer facing, that they think that will work. And they don't know any better. So when you point these things out to them and educate them, it's an eye-opening experience for them. I always commend folks for the fact that they have put together something. I don't want to belittle them and make them feel bad that they've made, in my opinion, the incorrect choice, because the reality is they didn't know any better. They assume that only the wealthy need a trust. That's just not true.
I say the same thing, Adam. I say, you know what? That's a really good start. So let's build upon that, because you've got a great foundation there. And then I present what I present. Yeah.
Those are some nice talking points, folks. So if you, as you're working with your final expense, clients, your term clients, whatever the case, you're talking with your family, your friends, or you're thinking about your own personal needs, those are great talking points to share with family and friends and clients. It's amazing to me how much estate planning is on people's minds today. It is just shocking. The topic comes up all the time, and it's a very easy conversation, not only to bring up, but to have, because people want to know. They want to know. And so why not bring this up, guys, with your clients? Maybe a suggestion would be to finish writing the app that you've been working on together, get it put into place, have the first premium drafted, deliver the policy, maybe by email or in a phone call, making sure they received it in the mail, and then let them know, hey, on top of that, our company specializes in estate planning, and use some of these talking points that we shared with people. Probate is a choice, it's not a requirement. Yeah. That is an important tagline.
There's 2 segue questions that I would use. One question I would ask is, hey guys, have you thought about estate planning recently, or have you been knocking that idea around? And some people will say yes or no, or I need to get around to that, or tell me more about that, which is ideal, right? Right. And the second question is a follow-up. If they've been thinking about estate planning, I I made this up, but in my opinion, and so what I share with people is estate planning has four things in balance, right? The first is legal documents, second is health, third is medical, and the fourth is financial. Now the final three add up to insurance, right? But I'm
Right.
just so if one of those triggers them, they're like, well, tell me more about, or oh yeah, we've got health, then I go with medical. Oh, we've got medical, then I go with health. And then I start talking about tools, I pique their interest, and then I do a BAM fam, a book a meeting from a meeting, where oh, that's interesting. Oh, we don't have time enough for that today, but let's meet on Monday and we'll talk about that then. And I'll prepare something so we can talk specifically about what your needs might be.
Yeah. Let's talk about where to go to get resources. First, you've got to be contracted through the Alliance. And where do you go for all things contracted? If you go to thealliancecontracting.com/requests, you're going to see right here. I'll share my screen so you guys can see what it looks like. You're going to go right here to this banner, Integrated Trust Systems, and then complete your contract, your non-disclosure agreement. Okay, so that's key. That's number one. Number two, we have some outstanding videos at the Alliance University, nauniversity.com. For example, in the video vault, we've got, if you select in the drop-down menu of estate planning, we've got some great training videos here that discuss everything from the process of implementing a trust to how to talk about a trust, how to conduct seminars, all kinds of great talking points there. So you guys will have plenty of resources to learn from. I really encourage this PowerPoint presentation that Mo Datka did. Very, very helpful. It was released on April 23rd of this year. So just a really nice PowerPoint presentation. Another great resource too, vital, is to go to nauniversity.com/resources and scroll down to estate planning tools. And here you'll have everything you need in order to prepare for an event or information you can share with clients one-on-one. Now, what's really cool, guys, is that you're not having to figure this out by yourself. That's what I really appreciate about what Andy has done here, as well as Scott Garcia and Mo Datka, the Bulises, the Bell and Jake, the Krauses, all that they've done for us to bring all this stuff together for us so we can have these resources in one place and not have to reinvent the wheel. It's, they've taken all the guesswork out of it for us, haven't they?
Yeah, every time I listen to a phone call or participate in something, literally when I was on the panel, I leaned towards Cindy and I was like, okay, I learned that. And I'm sitting next to her as a speaker and I'm learning stuff from her as a speaker in the panel that I'm on. So you never stop learning.
Right. Yeah. And you're going to find too that implementing your first trust is not complicated, right? Why don't we take the guesswork out of this, Cath, by just showing them how to do it. Are you prepared to show them the steps in implementing a trust?
Yep. I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Okay.
Okay, guys. I'll put this down here. So when you log on and you use your passwords, you're going to end up in a screen like this. And over on the left is going to be a bunch of choices. And the one that is going to be important to click on is create new DTP. And so basically that is going to be a place where you gather all the information from the people that will be in the estate. To be honest, my personal belief is this is so much easier than a final expense application. It's name, address, phone number. It couldn't be easier. And even though I might have the information on this sheet, the intake sheet that they gave me, I try to make it lively and have them participate right away. The other thing I do is I hand them a notepad like this, and a pen. And I said, who's going to be my note taker? And I have somebody take notes, and you'll see that in a minute why I have people take notes. But I have people dictate to me rather than looking at their application. It just keeps the banter going, it makes things light. I mean, it's an estate. Then what I do is I show them number 2, 3, all the way up to 9 at the bottom. I said, listen, and there's in when you download all the tools, there's going to be a steps to complete your trust. Step number 2 is implementation call. And I said, listen, who's my note taker? In the left-hand margin, write steps 2 through 9 in this estate. You want to take a look at that prior to your second phone call. But what we're doing now is preparing for your first phone call. So we're going to skip that. Then I show them this right here. So if they don't know what this term means, it's too much legalese, no problem. There's an explanatory, which is a fancy word for tell me what this means. And you can click that and it gives it to you in layman's terms or just plain English. Then you're going to come down to this. It's a pop-up, which on Zoom, I'd have to share a different screen. But when you're going to look at, you're going to look at this contract and purchase agreement. These first 2 are going to be always checked. You don't want to uncheck those, but people will ask, oh, do I have to pay $800 extra? No, you don't. It's included in the $2,995. It's another conversation, but all of these extras, that would be another good seminar topic, Anna.
Yeah, right.
And so, but 95% of people don't need any of those extras. But then what happens is you click this button and a contract comes up. What I do is I summarize it for people. And there's 2 main things that they hit. And so I summarize that for folks. Then I fill out this information right here, which is credit card information. A lot of this will be populated from when you filled it out before. Then I ask them once and for all, are you good to go for the $2,995? And they nod and say yes. And I submit and process it. And so if we've got time, what I'd like to do is I assign some homework. Would that be okay to show?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me scroll to that. So basically name, address, phone number, get their payment information, and then you're good to go. And then I'm gonna leave that. I've got Mr. and Mrs. Demo Guy are my pretend estate people. Oops, it's not playing nicely with me. Give me a second. I'm going to log in here. I have to do this in front of clients all the time. So, all right, demo guy. Let's look at him. All right, so John and Julianne demo go. We're in the pretend trust for these guys. So let's say I just did the DTP. I put John and Julianne's name and address in. I took John and Julianne's credit card information. They read the contract. They approved the contract. Yay. And so now we're in their trust. I can tell we're in their trust as opposed to Adam's trust or my trust because it says their names right there. I show them these names. So then I say, okay, who's my note taker? And they hold up their pen. I make it as playful as possible so people enjoy the hell out of it, right?
Right.
And so then I like, okay, homework item number 1, and I hold up a finger and I say, I want you to watch this movie right here. And I don't click it because it will start the movie. I said, what this is going to talk about is what all these buttons do. And then I'm like, okay, homework, I'm going to go through them really quick, but I take my time with our clients. Homework item number 2, medical directives. Let's take a look at getting your medical directives. I want each of you guys to click down here. It's going to be multiple choice, and you're going to make sure that you save and electronically sign, and I want you to do that. And I said, by the way, your first phone call, you're going to be asked if you've done this, and your second phone call, and so on. They're going to kind of nag you about it. So, I said, do me proud. Do me proud to make sure you do your homework, guys. And I laugh and they laugh. And that's kind of how it goes, and at least in my office.
Right.
So that's homework item. First one is the movie. Second one is your medical directives. Then I assign them a homework item number 3. In the background, half hour at a time, just do a little bit. Get some, these are prompts in your postscript area, and just do a little bit at a time, half an hour at a time till you get it done. And it's going on in the background during all of these phone calls. I'm like, that's homework item number 3. And then if they're not coming in to have me scan their stuff, I teach them how to go into the eVault and the financial records and how they can upload their documents. That would be homework item number 4. And then if their heads aren't spinning and they're willing to take in more information, what I do is I show them the notepad. And I demonstrate how to ask a question right here. And I say, let's unclick all these buttons by using this right here. And bare minimum, you're going to click admin. And, I watched Steel Magnolias. It horrified me. I have a question. And then if you want a copy of it going into your email, then you submit a note. Right? And so then I share with them that all of the notes are time and date stamped because it's an official part of their estate. The other thing I show them is the frequently asked questions at the bottom of the notepad. I said, this is a great way. Invariably, with a couple, there'll be one or the other that wants to know all the things. And I'm like, so Bob, this is a great thing for you. Take a look at a couple of these and see what the answers are, and you can learn all you need to know. And so that's what I do to get them signed up and organized. And by the time I've assigned all that homework, and by the time I have, they've written some notes, I said, if you don't understand it now throughout the process, and I refer to the sheet, which is in the university, steps to complete the process. I said, by the time you get to the 3rd or 4th step, you'll be like, I know where to click,
Yeah.
because they teach you all this stuff. And
Exactly.
yeah, so that's what I do.
And once that trust is implemented, we then need to schedule the next appointment for them. And what I do is I share, I schedule a doc drop where people will gather for me their documents that are contained in the list of information we give them. They're going to get copies of all those things and bring them into me. I'll get them scanned and uploaded into the system. I have my personal assistant does that here for me in the office. And I schedule with them at that point in time the staff orientation funding call. So you saw that in the notepad section that Cath had on her screen there before. So once you schedule that first appointment for them, the implementation team and then the attorney, they schedule their appointments for you. So you don't have to worry about doing the other scheduling of the appointments, but just that first one. So yeah, it's a great way, guys. It seems at first kind of daunting, but then when you do it, you realize, oh, this is a lot easier than filling out a final expense app. It's not hard at all to do.
To schedule that first call, guys, there's 3 main calls that ITS does. It's 1, 2, 3. So they have a handoff process. So when we sign somebody up, we hand them off to the first call. So this link right here at the top of the notepad is where we set them up with that first call. Towards what Adam says, different people do it different ways. I have about 50% of the people that are like, hey, I scan stuff all the time, and they do it themselves. And so I count backwards from where that first appointment is. Do everybody a solid. that's on the ITS team count back at least 4 days. And invariably, I get people that take all the time for themselves and can't understand why they can't have their orientation appointment like an hour after they've uploaded the documents. And so I say as gently as possible, I said, hey, I'm not sure if, in college or at work you ever did teamwork, but it's important to let each member of the team do some work. And I said, and you just spent a goodly sum to have people work on your behalf. So let's give them more than an hour. And they're like, oh, you're kind of shaming them. So it's important to word it correctly. But I remind them invariably, people are like, well, we're going to upload our documents Friday by 6, and then our appointment's Monday morning at 9. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about teamwork and how that works together, And I said, if you were the other team person, would you like that? And they're, oh no, that's pretty, lousy. And so they back, sometimes we modify,
Right.
but you're coaching people the best you can to be good team players and
Right.
also enthusiastic participants in the system. Some of these people can barely log on to their bank account, never mind the system that has lots of bells and whistles. So they're really intimidated and scared. And so I share with them just how many hours of one-on-one coaching they're going to get and how they're going to be really understanding of it towards the end.
Right. Once the trust is finished, it's ready to be notarized. That's an important step in the process. So I just went down to my county courthouse and paid a small fee and became a notary public, and then went to Amazon and had a stamp created and sent to my house for like $10, $15, $20. And the process is not complicated. The last will and testament requires two witnesses. You gotta make sure here in the state of Georgia, it was passed as a law thing this year. You've got to have a record book of all the notary work you've done. So that's what Cath is showing you there.
Yeah, my notary book looks like this. There's different formats, different people like different ways. But here's a sample of how it, and you just fill it out step by step. And so that way you have a record. And every once in a while, a kid or a husband and wife will be like, did we get our documents notarized? And after you've done 90 plus states, you can't remember.
Right.
So I look in my freaking notary book for my own things that I notarize.
Right.
I'm like, let me look at my book.
What's great, guys, is we kind of did like a quick rundown of the steps here in 30 minutes. But what's great is we have those training videos, and nothing is left up to chance. Nothing is overlooked. Every single detail of what you need to do is there. And so I encourage you, watch those videos, maybe watch them over and over again. Bring it up in conversations with clients, because these poor folks don't realize that if they have just a will, they're going to probate. If they have nothing in place, their family is going to probate. Probate in the state of Georgia takes a minimum of 6 months. That's the law. 6 months. The average is 9 months. Some I've talked to before they became ITS clients have been in probate, with relatives who passed away in past years, 2, 3, 4 years. They've been going through probate. Was it Dr. Martin Luther King's family is like 45, 47 years they've been in probate. Prince didn't have a trust. Here he was, a multimillionaire many times over, and they had to borrow $25,000 from George Lopez in order to bury Prince, because his estate was in probate and they couldn't access the monies to even bury Prince. So estate planning is vital. It is just as important as any other tool that people have in their financial toolbox, like life insurance. So offer it to people. Let them know that you do this work, and you'd be surprised how many people will take you up on the offer to talk more about it. So watch those videos, guys. Watch them, study them, watch them over and over and over again. I used to listen to them in my truck. I'd have it on my phone, and I would just, as I was driving 20 minutes to the office, I would just listen to 20 minutes of the video, then another 20 minutes on the way home. And you do that a few times, before you know it, it just is locked in there. and you can use that information to help more people.
The intake appointment video that is in that series that Adam is talking about was particularly helpful. I think a lot of you that are doing trusts that aren't doing seminars, you'll be kind of skipping the seminar part of it, but you'll be going into the intake appointment. So watching that intake appointment, this intake sheet, right, has a bazillion questions on it, and it's a structure to have a conversation. And if y'all are doing questions and getting up in their business about their health, money is easy. You
Mhm.
know, I talked to this guy about all sorts of body parts when I did his long-term care appointment. And I'm like, man, I would much rather talk to him about his 401k.
Right, right, right. Well, and that's what's
So if you can talk about all the medical bits, you can talking about this money stuff is going to be easy for you guys. So don't
right.
worry about it.
Yeah, and that's what's nice about this program too, is it allows us then to see what their financial situation is like and offer services that they need that maybe otherwise they would have been reluctant to share with us. But because we're helping them with this estate plan, we're able to see then some of the things, ways that they need other help, whether it be life insurance, long-term care, moving into assets under management with Chris Norris, all kinds of great things that people need help with, and oftentimes they just don't even know. But when you bring it up and yes, that's a service I need. Please, can you help me with that?
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's great too, is people will come to you and ask you, hey, do you do this? Yes, I do. Thank you for asking. I'll take care of it for you right now. It's,
With
it's just shocking.
conversations, instead of pontificating, I
Mhm.
try to address objections with clarifications about misinformation that is out and about. So Adam, you've seen Adam do that a couple times during this conversation. He says what a lot of people think is such and such. What Adam's not saying is what a lot of people got wrong is.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so when I'm giving a seminar, I'll say that because I'm educating, and there's a lot of different language. So when I really want to get somebody's attention, I'm like, the mistake people make is, and people's ears perk up. They're like, oh, I'm not going to make that mistake. And but
Mhm.
if you're lightly talking to somebody in conversation, Don Ron talks about, in line at Starbucks. If you're in line at Starbucks or Publix or wherever you get stuff,
Yeah.
it, just address the objections. It's like, for example, a lot of people think once they've got the legal stuff, they're all done, and they've forgotten about all the other three parts. And people are like, oh, I better meet with you because I don't even know that there are four parts to begin with.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah,
it's a motivator.
it is. We hope that, guys, that what this has done is kind of taken some of the mystery and confusion that, when it comes to estate planning. We hope we made it a little bit easier for you to understand just what is estate planning and how we help and the role that it plays in our lives, our families' lives, how it is that it helps us serve the client and their needs and make a comfortable living on top of it. I mean, it's just a wonderful service that I'm so glad that we're doing this now because I have a beautiful office, as you can see behind me. I've got this beautiful office. I've got 4 offices here I got staff here now, to help us. It's just changed our whole life. What did Belle do last year? I think it was like 600,000. I think it was her
Something
commission
like that.
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say for folks that are just starting out, guys, it is not, um, you're going to hear some big numbers when you go to conference and people are talking about estate planning. I've done over 90 estate plans, right? But I'm still working on my numbers, and I am not making that kind of profit, largely because I I'm still learning some of the back end things like long-term care and annuities and all of that. every time I learn one, I'm like, gosh, I wish I'd known that a year ago. But, I'm so new at this business that I'm just learning as fast as I can. The key conversation that I want to leave everybody with is this. Um, when you talk to people about estate planning, they think of it like a big old elephant, right? And how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? And so with estate planning, I I'm like, a lot of people think, and pick the one that they've addressed. A lot of people think that blah 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 and they're all done and go like this with your hands.
Mhm.
But there's this whole other world. And so, for example, I just spoke to a minister, and they're about to inherit some money, and they have some properties. Everything's paid off. The big hole in their estate plan is medical care, activities of daily living. And so I'm like, so what I said to him is, a lot of people think, and I use that speech, but what they forget about is that medical care averages X amount per person between adulthood and passing away. And that's an average per American. And you can either pay that cash, or you can figure out how to insure yourself properly so you don't pay it cash.
Mhm.
And he's like, oh, because he's got insurance on his house, and he's got insurance. And so from that, we were able to continue the conversation and have a more robust conversation with him and his wife coming up on the 19th of May about that hole in their estate plan.
Yeah. And that's what's revealed oftentimes are these holes that people need help with. And you can be that person to help them with those things. And just to go back to what we said at the very beginning, Cath, you made an excellent point. It's very rewarding to help people in these ways, in this way. And we get to make a great, great living doing that. It's a
Mhm.
win-win for everybody. And so we hope that this has kind of whetted your appetite. It's got you thinking about how you can bring estate planning into the list of services that you provide. And we think that not only will you help people, but you'll make a great living doing it as well. It's a win-win for everybody. And so let's get at it, guys. Let's get back to work. Have yourselves a great week. Stephen and Holly say hello. They love you all very much, and you can feel it. You can feel the love and all the things they provide for us. You guys have a great week. Wish you the best.
Take care, Adam. Bye bye, everybody.